Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. Another episode of X-Men 97's out today. So I watched that over lunch, and so I'm just going to keep going with these videos where I'm going to do my little take on them. I guess it's a review. Spoiler alerts, there's a few things I want to talk about in here, and there's no way to talk about them without spoiling some things. So, just throwing that warning out there. So if you want to see the episode, you haven't seen it yet, you don't know anything, I would say pause, come back later. If you want to get my take on it. Okay. First of all, I think between last week, where we had the Motendo, the Mojo dealio, and then that little bit of Life Song, I thought it was kind of too abrupt. You had this, kind of fun, whimsical episode, and then boom, you slam it next to a little bit more serious. Now with this episode, it's gone like really serious, right? They amped up the seriousness. I guess the best way to describe it's a very dark episode, which is weird because it also, I feel, it totally undermines the third episode in that the whole third episode was supposed to be parts of Inferno, right? And Inferno, even though it was a silly story, it was supposed to be kind of a dark episode. And now they've taken it and they've really ramped it up. I don't know if this story in this fifth episode, the episode's called Remember It, I don't know if it's supposed to be part of Days of Future Past, or if there's another storyline out there that kind of revisits that, like Days of Future or Present. I don't know, but therein lies the problem too. As soon as Cable shows up in it, right? And then Madeline Pryor's in it all of a sudden too, which is weird. It's just like the end of episode 3, she's like, I'm going off to whatever, find herself, right? And then, boom, suddenly there's no explanation. She's on Genosha, where Genosha's kind of like an island, kind of a nation of mutants, where all the mutants have gone. And they show it like in the episode, it's kind of like, a mutant utopia where everybody's happy and everything's fun and dandy, which in the comic... I know I was correct on this because I think I mentioned in the comic that the mutant island was Genosha, and somebody said, no, that's Krakoa. I can't. I gotta have to go back and look exactly, but in this one it's specifically Genosha because they say Genosha. It's not Krakoa, and I don't know. I guess I haven't seen enough of the very first animated series to know if they had Genosha. Did they establish it as an island nation? Is it just assumed that it's an island nation in this? Maria McTaggart's there, Banshee's there, and it's okay. I don't know. It's just a lot of things happen kind of quickly. That, or don't have the full end of this particular story because I haven't watched every episode of the original animated series. So I'm kind of like, alright. So I'm going with it. I mean, I know a lot of the regular X-Men beats, characters like Maury McTaggart, stuff like that. I mean, I know things, so, and then I'm kind of piecing it together on what's kind of going on in the comic now. And they did mention a gala, which I threw up a little in my mouth when I heard that word. And I was like, no, God, no. Luckily, it wasn't as out of hand as it could have gotten, and it was kind of pretty tame. It was just more like a party thing, and I didn't understand why they were having it. I guess they were celebrating Magneto becoming the leader of Genosha, which, okay, he's already the leader of the X-Men all of a sudden, I mean, that kind of makes sense. But then it's just like, okay, well, we want you to be the leader of Genosha too, which is like, we talk about spreading yourself out too thin or making too many commitments. It's just like, okay, what's going on here? Half the team's back at the Xavier Mansion being interviewed by a reporter. I can't remember what she said her name was, but this reporter who's kind of doing like a piece on mutants, to kind of, I guess, to look into their world and humanize them somehow. And then you've got, so Scott and Jean are there, Wolverine's there, Beast's there, Jubilee, and then Gambit, Rogue, Magneto, and I think it's just the three of them. They end up going to the island in the Blackbird, so they're there. And then you've got, and then Nightcrawler makes his appearance, which is pretty. I think they did Nightcrawler pretty well. He was bamfing here and there. He kind of did his thing. He had his accent, and I think he was fine. Again, there's a lot of things that happen at the end of this episode, and I'm not sure where Nightcrawler fell into that. I'd have to watch it again, because a lot of people essentially meet their demise. Again, spoiler alert. And I don't know if they kill off Nightcrawler. Suddenly, they're in the middle of this gala thing. Rogue, Gambit asks Rogue to be his queen. And then she kind of she accepts, and then she has a falling out with Gambit, and she's like, I can't feel you, so we can never have a relationship. And then, it's okay. And I gotta say, the voice actress that's playing Rogue, her voice sounded, because maybe she had more speaking roles and she was acting more, her voice sounds really old, and so it's just it just makes Rogue feel a lot older than she is. Or she's supposed to be. I don't know who knows what age she's supposed to be. So you've got that going on, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Cable shows up, and talks to Madeline Pryor. Madeline Pryor and Jean had this psychic bond connection over Scott that I kind of roll my eyes when that stuff happens anyway, so I kind of glossed over it, but I don't exactly know what was going on there. I know they were kind of fighting about, oh, it's my kid, I have a kid with her, oh, you're just like my clone, or you like a piece of me, a clone, part of me is the clone, and blah, blah, blah. To me, blah, blah, blah. and then suddenly Cable shows up, and then you see these explosions in the background, this is on Genosha, where Madeline Pryor's at. And then suddenly there's this giant, crazy-looking, three-headed Sentinel that's just tearing things up, and he's launching a bunch of Sentinels out of him. He's like a giant Sentinel with a bunch of Sentinels dropping out. That's kind of neat. And then all hell kind of breaks loose, and there's a big fight ensues, and Magneto's trying to save the Morlocks, and then basically a really cool fight scene. It was a pretty neat battle. It was fun to watch. But ultimately at the end, a lot of the mutants get wiped out, and it looks like Callisto gets wiped out. I don't want to give you an exact body count, but it looks like Callisto. I want to say Nightcrawler bought it, but maybe not. But ultimately, out of all the kind of, secondary or tertiary, mutant characters, the one that buys it, that I gotta say, and this is my opinion, and this is me being selfish with the story, but I chuckled. Gambit gets roasted. He gets wasted. He gets killed. Now, he tries to save Rogue, and then he gets killed from this giant Sentinel. Kind of just runs his tentacle or something. I can't remember what it was. Something through him, and then he overcharges it as through his body, and then he blows it up with his power. First thing, like I said, I chuckled. I do not like Gambit. I never liked the character. Haven't liked him since his inception, and because he was there with Rogue too, it's I get very, very jealous of my Rogue. Again, this is a personal, selfish view on the storyline and the characters. Obviously, there's probably lots of Gambit people out there who love Gambit. There's other people like the story, so this would be oh my goodness. To me, I just just kind of laughed. And then, but the thing is, it's comic book. It's an animated series based off the X-Men, based off Marvel Comics. Nobody dies forever. the whole fact that it seemed to be the kind of like this Days of Future Past-esque thing makes me think, and seeing like Callisto Dead 2 makes me think, okay, this is not permanent. There's no stakes in comic book TV shows. Jean Grey dies and then she comes back, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like, okay, Gambit's going to come back. It's just like, I was just hoping it. I was just like going, I hope he's really dead. I hope they don't bring him back. I want him to be really dead. But who knows what's going to happen? I mean, and who knows what's happening with this show? I mean, we've got 5 more episodes, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 more episodes. I don't know really where they're going with the story. The story just seems to be. This is what appears to be happening. Is they're just throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. It's just like this is happening, that's happening, this is happening. They're definitely doing things that are unpredictable. They're going for the shock value to sucker you in. Like, it's like modern. It's like, they want to do the Game of Thrones thing or the whatever Walking Dead, where it's like, oh, look who gets killed, look what happens. Oh, let's go for the shock value to kind of hook you in. And it's just like, that gets tedious after a while. Especially when it comes to a comic book movie, it's just like, okay, you can kill them all off. They're all going to come back. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't. But obviously he's going to come back. So I think something mentioned somewhere, I saw like a blurb or something on like a news feed or Google feed or YouTube or whatever it was. It said something like, oh, major, longtime X-Men character finally dies. It's just like, okay. I wasn't thinking Gambit, and I guess he's long term, but he isn't long term in my book. Like, to me, Gambit and Jubilee are still new characters to me. Madeline Pryor she's an older character, but yeah. So I don't, the show is entertaining. I'll put it that way. It's definitely worth watching. If you want to get the Disney Plus, it's worth getting the Disney Plus to watch it. I mean, the only way you're going to really know if you like it for yourself is just watch it and see if you like it. Like I said, overall I don't really have anything that bad to say about the whole show so far, all 5 episodes so far. I just think that, my original criticisms stand. I think things are moving too fast because there's not enough episodes. I think they're trying to throw all their eggs in one basket to kind of get this to stick, because if it doesn't stick, and everybody turns against it, it's like Disney's just, Marvel and Disney are just like, they just keep, and this is a beloved franchise, and it's just like, they're going to keep fumbling the ball, and I think they're sick of fumbling the ball. So I think they want this to work. It seems like they're trying a little too hard by just making things go too fast. The tone shifts are all over the place. It just seems like to go like really like hard drama or hard, dark tone to this show, I think is going a little extra. It's pushing the envelope a little too much. I think that the joy in the X-Men in general, and then the joy in like the cartoon too, even more so, which was a lighter version of the comic, was just the fact that it's very melodramatic, and it suckers you in with its soap opera like pacing and sort of elements, and then it's melodramatic and it's kind of silly. It's fun when you're 13 years old and you're reading it or watching it, and you're just like, this is fun, and but when you're old and you've seen it before and you've seen other things and you watch it now, for me as an adult, and again, I'm 10 years removed from the generation that really is supposed to like this. It's supposed to be the people 10 years younger than me, because they were young when the original show was playing, and into their teenage years, where me I was young in the 80s and into the late 80s with my teenage years. So like I said, I'm 10 years removed to begin with, and like I said, I'm going off of the comic first, then the cartoon. Now, like I said, it's not to say, as I said in some of the other videos, that I watched the original cartoon and I thought they did a good job of handling like the Rise of the Phoenix and stuff. I think that it it has its good and it has its bad. And I think that's a good way to sum up this whole series so far in this episode is it's got some good stuff in it that's really worth watching. It's fun and it makes you, like the X-Men again. And specifically again, I'm not a huge fan of the 90s X-Men and the Jim Lee X-Men, but if you like that, I can see you liking this. But that's not to say that it doesn't have its quirks and its weird kind of things that just like kind of make you scratch your head. Like nothing is literally making me yell at the screen and go, oh, I hate this. This is so terrible. They've destroyed my X-Men. They've destroyed my childhood. There's none of that going on. For me, maybe for some people, but for me, and I assume most people know. But there's just little things that's like when I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that. But I like this and I like this and I like this. So I guess my review of it is that it's good and it's bad. It's worth watching. It's fun. I recommend it if you like the X-Men. I recommend it even if you've never heard of the X-Men or you wanted to get into it. I think maybe it's a nice. It can be. It's just if you're young, which is probably nobody watches this YouTube station, and probably nobody watches the cartoon in general. Because like I said, my 12-year-old son, I'm trying to sell it on, and he's not. He could care less. And supposedly most of his friends could care less. Like I said, it's not for the young kids. And I think all of that stuff is kind of this. I think they should constantly. If they're going to keep doing animation and keep doing animated shows like this or anything with these properties, I think they should definitely gear it towards a more adult audience. It has to be super serious. It doesn't have to be super, like Game of Thronesy craziness. It doesn't have to be like rated R. But I think if you cater it towards like a young adult or or just an adult crowd, I think you're better off than trying to hook in new young kids because the young kids aren't having it these days. They've got their video games. Now my son is on to like the Oculus with the Meta thing, and now they have like virtual hangouts with their buddies. And before that it was all Fortnite, and then Minecraft, and it keeps going. I mean, he came home from school yesterday, and all he watched for like an hour and a half straight was not cartoons, like I would have done when I got home, or maybe even a kid 10 years younger than me would have done when they came home from school. No, he watched YouTube videos because he didn't have his Oculus with him. He watched YouTube videos of other people playing the Oculus stuff for like an hour and a half straight, and that's what he finds entertaining. And his buddies all kind of are the exact same way. So kids aren't buying this stuff. Incidentally, though, yesterday was it yesterday? The day before, I went to Meijer to go shopping, and I went to the toy aisle, and they got a new case in, and they had every single one of that Wave 2 of the X-Men 97 figures. They had Madeline, they had Scott, they had Jean, they had the Executioner, the Magneto, Nightcrawler. I think that's all 6 of them. They're not on sale, so they're $24.99 a piece. That's $150 worth of action figures standing there, and I'm just like going like, I'd like to have them, but like at the end of the day, I'm not paying $150 for 6 action figures. Ain't gonna happen. It would be nice. I mean, I'd like to have. I generally would like to have because like I said, I generally like the show, even though I have my issues with it. And I genuinely like the action figures, and I would like to have them, but I don't want to pay $150, and that's where I'm out, And so, even at $20 a pop, it still would have been $120 a figure. Even at 15 a pop, what would it have been? 40, 90 bucks? Even that, just like, and you're there spending, $75, $80 in food. It's like, I'm going to throw on another 90. That's if they were $90. Throw in another $90 on action figures on top of it. I mean, granted, that doesn't happen every week I go to Meijer, but in this regard, it's like, well, I could have had them all. If I go back now, of course, they'll all be gone except for Magneto and Jean Grey again. But, yeah, I don't know. It's too much money. It's too much money. And even if it is what they should cost, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go in there and spend $150 on 6 action figures. Like I said, if this was the 90s and 30 years ago, and I went into the store Meijer, like my Meijer in Rochester, where they did have the original Toy Biz figures, and they had 6 figures at $3.99, $4.99 a piece, let's say $5, it would have been $30. I probably would have been spending about $50 in groceries. I would have had to spend another $30. I guess I would have been in the same boat-ish. I guess maybe. It still seems like it's a little less expensive, but I'm not making any more money. I've been making about the same thing for the last 5 years. So my income is not increased that much. And in fact, there hasn't been any bailout money or anything like that in the last couple of years. So I didn't get an extra couple of $1,000s that I could spend, to pump back into the economy as it was supposed to be used for. So I still probably won't get the figures. And like I said, I missed out on the whole first wave. I'd have to go back and buy that. And it's another, like I said, it's $300 for 12 figures. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for 12 action figures. But, sorry. I'm still enjoying the show, though. So I'm going to keep watching it. So, sorry, it's kind of a sleeper episode. I'm really kind of wiped out. My son, he had to go to school this morning. I know I keep mentioning my son. Somebody was in there. I was like, I don't care about your son. It's just like, all right, I'm just telling you. That's why so I'm tired. Is because I had to get up early to get him ready for school, but then he got up early. We got up like 4:30 in the morning. It's just like, and I already did a crap ton of work today, so I'm already kind of spent by the afternoon. So, anyways, it's going to be a shorter video. Like I said, because I'm not going to talk just incessantly on this episode, but check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like the episode? Have you seen it yet? Again, sorry for the spoilers if you missed my warning, but I tried to give you guys a heads up on that. So let's see where it goes from now. Let's see if the people who have perished stay perished. Let's see what happens with Rogue. Let's see what happens with all of them. Let's see where it goes from here. All right. I'll catch you on the other one. On the flip side, like and subscribe if you want. I've just hit 300 subscribers in 9 months. Woo! I'm really getting up there. All right. I'll catch you on the next one. We'll see what's going on then. All right. Bye-bye.